Okay, we're going to make the circular flange plate using primarily the revolve tool to create the physical object, and then we'll add the feature of the holes using the circular pattern tool. Okay, so the first way to start is going to make this L-shaped sketch, and then we're going to have this line down below it. It's parallel, it's horizontal, parallel to the bottom of the L, and it's the line that this is going to revolve around. Basically, think of all the points inside this L. Their job when you use a revolve is that whatever distance they are from the axis of rotation, they will maintain that exact distance but spin around the line. And as they spin around, they'll leave, we'll do the join revolve to make material, kind of leave material in its path. Okay, so let's go ahead and make this sketch. Let's make this axis of rotation is just a line using the line tool. I made it dashed just so I knew it wasn't part of my profile, but dashed or not is no big deal. It'll still work, and then we'll just apply these different dimensions. Okay, so I'm going to hit start new sketch, and I'll just go ahead and use the line tool. And when I build this, okay, I can do it right here, I guess. I don't have to have the exact dimensions, but I do want to be mindful of approximate dimensions. Okay, I don't want to have this zoomed way out where I kind of start sketching this out and I'm at 9 or 10 inches. Okay, so be mindful of your dimensions and try to have it close to what it's supposed to be. You know, just even if it's a little ballparked, because then when you come back and dimension it, things won't have to move so far to kind of snap into place. I'm being careful right now to get my perpendicular constraints. That's the big thing. Okay, so there's that, and then I'm going to come back and add a line underneath. Okay, if you're curious how I made that line a dashed line, you can see this line is not dimensioned. It's the size of it's not dimensioned, but the position either. I can move it around. Okay, to make it dashed, just to call it a construction line, I left-clicked on it so it's highlighted, and then I right-clicked and chose construction. It's still selected right now, so I want to click into the white to deselect it. Okay, so there's just a construction line. And now I'll apply the dimensions. If you need to take a minute and observe those, go ahead and do so. Okay, this was 3/8 or 0.375. From here to here was dimension to be 1 inch. From here to here was 2.5. The overall width of this shape was 1 inch. And then they dimensioned, I would assume, the contour here to be a 1/2 inch. There you go. So our L is the correct dimensions. It should be the correct size. It's also the correct distance from the axis of revolution. And so now we're going to revolve. All right, I hit finish sketch. And I will choose the revolve tool. The revolve tool includes selecting a profile that will get revolved. Since there's only one closed section, one closed loop, it's already auto selected. And then it's because of that, it auto went to the next choice, which is axis, to say what are you going to spin around. Now this is the correct one, we know, but I would encourage you right here to take a minute to play around with just choosing other lines and seeing what happens. I can hold, I have to turn the axis tool on, I can hold the control key and then I can deselect the choice. Right now I'm on the axis, so I can deselect that line and then I can try choosing something else. Like what if I had chosen that line? I would play around just so you can start to visualize and understand what is happening. This L shape is spinning around this line. It's kind of like this is the flag, this is a flagpole, it's staying connected, and this is just spinning around, leaving that profile in its wake, and there's what it creates. So I'm going to deselect that one. You could, instead of this line down here, what if you had chosen the bottom of the L? Okay, looks like a similar shape, but the overall diameter actually gets a little smaller because the points that were the furthest away from what we were revolving around got closer. Okay, so it's going to be a little smaller, and points from the profile went all the way up to the line, and so those points stay right against the line and we get no hole. Okay, just to go back and compare that to when we chose this one. Okay, it's a little bigger because these points were further from that line, so they make a bigger circle. And the closest ones weren't on the line, so they maintain that distance, which is off the line, leaving this void, this hole in the middle, right? So we never used the hole tool to create that. We just had a profile that was off of the axis of rotation. Okay, so you can play around there for a minute, but there you go. The next thing we need to do is we need to create 10 holes. And so I know this is hard to see, but you can zoom in on your computer. I can tell you it's 1.650 is the distance from the center of our feature. And so I'm going to make a sketch, make a point to define a hole. That is that. I also can see that it's a through hole with a diameter of 0.5. So we're going to start a sketch on this face. I'm going to project geometry of the circle, any of these circles actually, just so I get a center point that I can reference. And then I'm going to use the point tool. I want to make sure I'm straight up from that. I'll use the dimension tool to go from here to the center. It was 1.650, and that's it for the sketch. To create the hole, I'll then use the hole tool in the 3D model tab. Hole, we said it was a 1/2 inch diameter, and it was supposed to go all the way through, which it's already set to here, the termination through all. Okay. Lastly, we want to now duplicate that in a circular pattern so that there are a total of 10. And in our pattern panel, there is the circular pattern tool. To use that, we're going to first choose the feature that we want to pattern, so it's that hole. Next, I come over here and say I'm going to choose what to spin around. Now, there's no axis running through the middle, but if you choose a cylindrical kind of hole or object, Inventor automatically thinks you want to spin around because they know we're wanting to look for a rotational axis, that it'll just create the center line kind of right down through the middle of that cylinder, like that. Okay, and then the placement here, this is the total that you'll have in the end, including the original. We wanted a total of 10 spun evenly around a full circle, 360 degrees, and that's that. So our part's done. As a side note though, real quick, if you want to know another way to put that axis that's going to go right through the middle, under work features we have work planes and work axes. There's not the word there, my menu is a little condensed, but this feature is a work axis. Axes are lines. There's a drop down, the arrow next to it is a drop down, and there is the last one here, looks like a cylinder. It says basically it's going to create a axis through a revolved face or feature. So if you had chosen that and then chosen any of these cylindrical profiles, you'll get that work axis right down the middle. So you could have done that before using the circular pattern tool as well, just to make sure that the line that you wanted to spin the feature around was there. Okay? Alright, I'm going to just hit back because I don't need that. And then to snip it, to submit it, I want you to go to File, iProperties, go to the Physical tab. I want to see these values calculated, so hit Update, and it will calculate the area, the volume, the mass. The mass is just generic right now. We haven't picked a material, but if you choose an actual material, let's change it in class, for example, then this will get calculated. Okay, so I want you to bring this next to your part and then use your snipping tool, okay, just to get a picture of just the part and the iProperties window. You can use the pen tool to go ahead and put your name on here. Okay. Hit the save button, save that picture somewhere, and then go submit that into Schoology.